The night janitor at Hit Factory Studios thought he was just mopping floors when he heard the crash from Studio B. What he found would test everything he learned as a paramedic in Vietnam, and what Michael Jackson did 3 months later would change his entire bloodline forever. Because sometimes the person who saves your life is cleaning your studio at a.m., and sometimes the greatest gift you can give isn't money, it's seeing someone's invisible dream. February 14th, 1995. 2:47 a.m. Hit Factory Studios, New York City. Marcus Williams pushed his janitor's cart down the empty hallway of the most famous recording studio in America. At 58 years old, his body ached in ways that reminded him he wasn't young anymore. His third job of the day. His hands were raw from cleaning solutions, his back screaming from the furniture-moving job he'd finished at midnight, and his feet throbbing from the morning shift at the diner where he washed dishes from a.m. to 2 p.m. 3 jobs, 7 days a week, for 15 years. This was survival. His daughter's college tuition, his ex-wife's medical treatments, his mother's nursing home, bills that would drown most men. But what Marcus didn't know was that tonight, everything was about to change. Marcus had been many things once. A medic in Vietnam who'd saved 17 lives under fire. A jazz pianist who'd played at the Blue Note. Critics calling him the next McCoy Tyner. A husband, a father. But that was before the divorce, before the medical bills, before life stripped away everything except survival and the distant memory of who he used to be. He hummed quietly as he worked. An old Miles Davis tune from 1959, Round Midnight. His fingers unconsciously mimicked piano chords he hadn't played in 15 years. The piano in his apartment had been sold long ago to pay for his daughter's braces. Just another sacrifice. But Marcus didn't know that the melody he was humming would soon save a life in ways he couldn't imagine. Studio B's red recording light was off. Whoever had been working had finally called it a night. Marcus unlocked the door with his master key and pushed his cart inside. The studio was dark except for equipment lights, little red and green LEDs creating a constellation in the darkness. And then he heard it. Not music. A sound that made his blood freeze and his military training snap into instant alertness. A sound he hadn't heard since the battlefield outside Da Nang in 1968. The sound of a human body in respiratory distress. Gurgling, struggling, failing. What Marcus discovered in the next 3 seconds would test everything he thought he knew about fate. His hand found the light switch. The studio exploded into brightness, revealing a man face down on the floor between the mixing console and the leather couch. One arm stretched out like he tried to catch himself, the other trapped beneath his torso. Marcus's medic training kicked in before his conscious mind registered who he was looking at. Airway, breathing, circulation. He dropped to his knees and rolled the man onto his back with practiced efficiency. And that's when Marcus Williams realized he was looking at the face of Michael Jackson, the king of pop, the most famous entertainer on earth, the man whose music had soundtracked his daughter's childhood. Unconscious, not breathing, dying on the floor while the digital clock ticked forward. 2:48 a.m. But what Marcus didn't know was that the next 6 minutes would determine not just Michael Jackson's fate, but his own. For 1 second, Marcus's mind went blank. Then Vietnam roared back. Every second counted. Hesitation meant death. His hands knew what to do even when his brain was screaming that this couldn't be happening. Check the airway. Marcus tilted Michael's head back. Nothing. No chest rise. No air movement. Respiratory arrest. Possibly cardiac arrest. How long had he been down? Impossible to know. Every second without oxygen was brain cells dying, was permanent damage, was the difference between life and death. Marcus positioned his hands on Michael's chest. Proper placement. 2 inches above the xiphoid process. The spot he'd found on 17 soldiers in rice paddies and jungle clearings. 30 compressions. Hard and fast. At least 2 inches deep. He started compressions. His shoulders burned. His back screamed. His hands, raw from cleaning chemicals, sent lightning bolts of pain up his arms with each compression. He ignored it all. Pain was temporary. Death was permanent. But the real fight was just beginning. After 30 compressions, rescue breaths, 2 of them, Marcus sealed his mouth over Michael's and breathed. watched for chest rise, got it. Then back to compressions. The rhythm of CPR was brutal, exhausting, relentless. 2 minutes of continuous effort that felt like hours. Marcus's world narrowed to nothing but this. Compression, compression, compression. Count to 30. Breathe, breathe. Check for response. Nothing. Again. 30. Compressions. 2 breaths. And again. 3 minutes of CPR. Marcus was crying now, tears mixing with sweat. His vision was blurring from exhaustion, but his hands kept moving. The rhythm drilled into him. 27 years ago was the only thing keeping Michael Jackson tethered to this world. But what Marcus couldn't see was that time was running out. For minutes. Michael's lips were blue. His skin was gray. Marcus's hands were cramping. His shoulders screaming. But muscle memory kept him going. Training turned conscious thought into automatic action. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. Check. Nothing. Again. 5 minutes. Marcus had lost soldiers at the 5-minute mark. Had watched life leave bodies despite his best efforts. He knew what death felt like. Could feel it hovering in this room. Death was coming for Michael Jackson. Please, Marcus whispered between compressions. Please don't let me lose him. 6 minutes. Marcus's arms felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Every compression was agony. His vision was narrowing. He was 58 years old, running on 4 hours of sleep, performing medicine that would challenge someone half his age. His body was shutting down, but he wouldn't stop. And then, at 6 minutes and 40 seconds, something happened that Marcus would remember forever. Michael Jackson gasped. A tiny sound, barely audible, but Marcus heard it like angels singing. Air, moving, on its own. Michael's chest rose without Marcus's hands forcing it. Fell, rose again. Shallow breaths, struggling breaths, but breaths. Marcus rolled Michael into the recovery position and reached for the phone. His fingers trembled as he dialed 911. This is Marcus Williams at Hit Factory Studios. Medical emergency. Male, approximately 36, found in respiratory arrest. CPR performed for approximately 7 minutes. Patient now breathing but unconscious. We need an ambulance immediately. The operator asked who the patient was. Marcus looked down at Michael Jackson, still unconscious but breathing. Michael Jackson. The patient is Michael Jackson. What happened in the next 4 minutes would set everything else in motion. The ambulance arrived fast. Paramedics took over with equipment and urgency. They asked questions. How long was he down? Unknown. What did you do? CPR. Approximately 7 minutes. Medical background? Army medic, Vietnam. They loaded Michael onto a stretcher. One paramedic stopped before leaving. Sir, what you did tonight saved his life. If you hadn't found him, if you hadn't known CPR, if you hadn't had the endurance to keep going for almost 7 minutes, he wouldn't have made it. You're a hero. Marcus shook his head. He wasn't a hero. Heroes got recognition. Marcus was just a janitor who happened to be a medic 30 years ago. Someone in the right place at the right time. But what Marcus didn't realize was that his life had just changed forever. The ambulance left, sirens wailing, and Marcus stood in Studio B, surrounded by evidence of his desperate fight. The overturned cart, scattered cleaning supplies, his hands still shaking. 3:12 a.m. 25 minutes since he'd walked into this room. 25 minutes that had just rewritten his destiny in ways he couldn't imagine. Marcus gathered his supplies and continued his shift. Because he had 6 more studios to clean, and bills didn't stop coming. Just because you saved Michael Jackson's life. His daughter's tuition was due in 3 weeks. Life went on. Survival continued. The grind never stopped. But in 3 months, everything Marcus thought he knew about his life would be proven wrong. 3 months passed like they always did. Wake at a.m., work the diner until p.m., sleep 3 hours. Move furniture from p.m. to midnight. Clean studios midnight to a.m., sleep for hours. Repeat. The rhythm of survival. The grind that erased everything except exhaustion and the next paycheck. He read in newspapers that Michael had survived. Treated for exhaustion and dehydration. Recovering at Neverland Ranch. The story mentioned a Hit Factory employee had performed CPR, but no names were given. Marcus didn't tell anyone. It wasn't his story to tell, but Michael Jackson hadn't forgotten, and what he was planning would change everything. Marcus returned to his 3 jobs. The endless cycle, the hamster wheel of economic survival that millions knew all too well. His daughter called weekly from college, her voice bright with optimism. His ex-wife sent emails about treatment progress. His mother asked if he was eating enough, sleeping enough. Marcus lied and said yes. This was his life, and he'd accepted it would never change. That he'd die cleaning someone else's studio, anonymous and exhausted and forgotten. He was wrong. Then, on a Thursday evening in May, 3 months and 6 days after that night, Marcus's supervisor called him into the office. Marcus's heart sank. This was how you got fired. Called into the office. Given the corporate speech, he couldn't afford to lose this job. It was 1/3 of his income. Without it, his daughter's tuition would bounce. His mother's nursing home would call about late fees. Everything Marcus had sacrificed for would collapse. His hands shook as he walked down the hallway. 58 years old, 3 jobs, 15 years of loyalty, and it was ending. But when Marcus walked into the office, his supervisor wasn't alone. Frank Dillio, Michael Jackson's manager, sat in the corner, and standing by the window, backlit by the Manhattan skyline, was Michael Jackson himself. Marcus froze. His brain couldn't process this. Michael turned, and their eyes met. Neither man spoke. Then Michael walked forward, and Marcus saw tears streaming down his face. "You saved my life," Michael said, his voice breaking. "And I didn't even know your name." Marcus's voice came out as a whisper. "I'm Marcus Williams, sir. I was just doing what anyone would do." "No," Michael said fiercely. "Not anyone. Most people would have panicked. Most people don't know CPR. Most people couldn't have done what you did for almost 7 minutes. My doctor said that's extraordinary. You saved my life." Michael paused, wiping tears. "Frank's been trying to find you for 3 months. But I needed to find you. I needed to say thank you. And I needed to understand who you are." What followed was the strangest hour of Marcus Williams' life. Michael gestured for Marcus to sit, and he asked questions. Real questions. Deep questions. "Where did you learn CPR?" "Vietnam. Medic. Saved 17 men." "How long have you worked here?" 15 years. Night shift janitor." "What did you do before that?" Marcus hesitated. This was the part he didn't talk about, the dreams he'd buried. But something about Michael's genuine interest made him answer honestly. "I was a musician. Jazz piano. Played professionally for about 10 years. Had a regular spot at the Blue Note in the late 70s. Critics said I had potential." Michael's expression changed. "Why did you stop?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "Life happened. Got married. Had a daughter. Jazz piano doesn't pay for diapers. Got a day job. Then divorce. Medical bills. My daughter needed college. I sold my piano about 15 years ago. Needed money for her braces." The office was quiet. Michael stared at Marcus like he was seeing something that hurt to look at. Then Michael said 4 words that would change everything. "Play something for me." Marcus laughed desperately. "Sir, I haven't touched a piano in 15 years. My hands wash dishes and move furniture. That part of me is dead." Michael stood and gestured for Marcus to follow. "Let's find out." They walked to Studio A, the biggest room in Hit Factory, where legends recorded, where Marcus had cleaned but never dreamed of entering as anything other than invisible labor. A Steinway grand piano sat in the corner. Michael sat on the couch and said simply, "Play." Marcus's hands shook as he approached. This was insane. He was a janitor. He cleaned this piano. He didn't play it. But Michael was watching him with eyes that said, "I see you." But the janitor, the musician, Marcus sat on the bench. His hands hovered over the keys. 15 years. He positioned his hands and played. It started rough. His fingers stumbled. His timing was off. His technique was broken by 15 years of dish soap and manual labor. He hit wrong notes. It was embarrassing. But then, slowly, muscle memory, the thing that lives in your hands even when your mind forgets. Marcus closed his eyes and let his fingers find home. He played "Round Midnight," The Thelonious Monk standard he'd played 1,000 times at the Blue Note. The song that had been his signature. And as he played, the rust fell away. The years fell away. The exhaustion and bills and 3 jobs disappeared. For 4 minutes, Marcus Williams wasn't a janitor. He was a musician again. The last note hung in the air, slowly fading. When Marcus opened his eyes, Michael Jackson was on his knees on the floor, face buried in his hands, his body shaking with sobs. Real, devastating grief. Michael looked up, his face wet. "That's it," he said, voice breaking. "That's what I heard." Marcus didn't understand. "Sir?" Michael stood and sat beside Marcus on the bench. "The night you saved me, when I was dead. I was technically dead for about 3 minutes. And during those 3 minutes, I heard music. Beautiful music that sounded like heaven. I told my doctors. They said it was brain hypoxia. Hallucinations from oxygen deprivation." Michael grabbed Marcus's hands. "But it wasn't. It was you. You were humming while you worked on me. Humming while you did compressions. And that music followed me back. That music is why I'm alive. Not just the CPR. The music. Your music. You saved me twice that night. Once with your hands. Once with your art." Marcus stared, pieces falling into place. He had been humming Miles Davis. Round Midnight. The same melody he'd just played. "I didn't even realize." But Michael wasn't finished. What he said next would change everything. Michael stood. "Marcus, when I woke up in that hospital, I made a promise to God. If I survived, I would use it to see people. Really see them. The invisible ones. The forgotten ones. The ones whose gifts the world has decided don't matter." Michael turned back. "You saved my life. But you've been invisible for 15 years. Working 3 jobs. Sacrificing your gift so your daughter could have college. So your ex-wife could get treatment. So your mother could have dignity. You've been dying inch by inch. And that ends today." Frank Dillio handed Michael a folder. Michael showed Marcus the papers. "This is a contract. Full-time position with my production company. Salary, $125,000 a year. More than all 3 jobs combined. Health insurance. Retirement plan. 4 weeks vacation. Unlimited access to any studio. Any instrument. Your job. Musician. Composer. Whatever you want to create." Marcus couldn't breathe. "Sir, I can't. This is too much. I'm just a janitor who did CPR." "Stop," Michael said firmly. "This isn't about owing. This is about seeing. I see you, Marcus. I see the musician you buried. I see the sacrifices you made. And I'm not going to let that gift die." But Michael wasn't finished. Over the next 2 weeks, Michael Jackson quietly paid off every single one of Marcus's debts. His daughter's college tuition, 4 years, paid in full. His ex-wife's medical bills, $47,000, paid. His mother's nursing home, 2 years in advance, paid. The back rent, credit card debt, every burden, gone. Marcus found out when his daughter called, crying. "Dad, someone paid my tuition." All of it. All 4 years. Then his ex-wife, Marcus, the hospital called. "My bills are paid." All of them. Then the nursing home. Then his landlord. One by one, every crushing weight was lifted. And when Marcus called Michael to thank him, Michael said simply, "You gave me back my life. Let me give you back yours." The album, Saved, was recorded over 6 months. Marcus arrived at the studio each day, still not believing this was his life. One job, 8 hours a day, making music, getting paid to do what his soul had been screaming to do for 15 years. They worked with jazz legends, Bob James, Christian McBride, Brian Blade, musicians who treated Marcus as an equal, who understood that talent doesn't die just because life forces it underground. The album was fusion of everything Marcus and Michael represented. Jazz harmonies with pop hooks, complex compositions with accessible melodies, songs about survival, about sacrifice, about invisible people, about being seen. Saved was released in January 1996. Rolling Stone called it Michael Jackson's most mature and musically sophisticated work. The New York Times wrote, "Marcus Williams emerges as a jazz composer of serious depth." But the dedication told the real story. Michael had written, "To Marcus Williams, who taught me that saving a life is the beginning, not the end. Who taught me that the greatest gifts are often hidden in the hands of the invisible. You saved my life. I hope I've helped save yours. With love, Michael." The album went platinum because the music was genuinely beautiful, because people could hear the story in every note. Marcus Williams retired from all 3 jobs, moved his mother into a better facility, watched his daughter graduate college debt-free, reconciled with his ex-wife as friends, and most importantly, Marcus played piano every single day. Not for survival, for joy. He and Michael remained close until Michael's death in 2009. They collaborated on 3 more albums. Marcus played on Michael's tours. They had dinner monthly when Michael was in New York. When Marcus Williams died in 2012 at age 75, Michael Jackson's family attended his funeral. His daughter played "Round Midnight," the same arrangement that had brought her father back to life. Today, there's a plaque at the Hit Factory Studios building. It reads, "In honor of Marcus Williams and Michael Jackson, February 14, 1995. The night a janitor saved a king. The night a king saved a janitor. Sometimes the person cleaning your floors is an angel. Sometimes the most famous person in the world can still learn to see. Sometimes heroes push janitors' carts. And sometimes they save each other. Because sometimes the person who saves your life is cleaning your studio at a M. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give isn't money or fame. It's seeing someone's invisible dream and saying, 'That matters. You matter. Let me help you fly.'"